Hello and welcome back to our channel, Cosmic Reintegration. I have the pleasure here today to have Rod Freitas. He's the son of Jan Val Ellam, the Brazilian writer and author. And we're going to be discussing the topics of the cosmic reintegration with him today. Hello, Rod.
Hi
Nice to
there.
see you here.
My pleasure.
Well, ours too. So, let's try to go back from the beginning. Maybe it'll be easier for everybody to kind of get a context of your relationship with your dad's work. So, Elan has been working on the topic of the cosmic reintegration and revelation for over 30 years now. He's studied more than 75 different mythologies, has written over 50 books, and he has hundreds and hundreds of lectures. And I'm sure that being in contact with him, you start to get familiarized with the kind of topics and subjects that he was talking about from an early age. So can you talk a little bit, about how was it growing up and being around your father when he was going through this process of starting to learn and starting to do his lectures? And I know he's have different formats. He's worked with the radio before. He had a station, ufology. So it's been a lot of different things. So I'm sure it's a very interesting upbringing that you had.
Yeah, it was very interesting to say the least. When I was about 15, 16, something like that, I read a book he had published not too long ago, and I was a little amazed, a little shocked. Let's put it like that. I it was The book is called Cosmic Reintegration. It was his first book. He
Mhm.
published it this one in 1995, 96, something like that. When I read, I had to insist a lot to get my hands on this book because he was very, you know, private. He didn't want to include his family or his
Kind of
friends,
protective.
kind of protective
Hmm.
because maybe he wasn't sure. Well, today I understand that he wasn't sure where he was going, so
Yes.
uh, he was very private about these books that he was beginning to write. And uh, when I found out that he was a writer, it was one day I got home from school, and there was a reporter in my living room with lights and cameras, and he was talking to she was talking to my father, right? And I didn't know what was going on. I was surprised. I waited until it was over, and then I went to talk to him. What is going on, you
Yeah.
know? And then he said, "Yeah, I wrote this book," and then he gave me the book. Uh, he told me a little bit about the book, right? I read it, and then I started asking all kinds of questions, right, about the book. And so one thing led to another. I read the second one, the third one. The first three books he published were a trilogy. So I read these three books, and then I read another one and another one. And then eventually he took me to one of his lectures.
Mhm.
In the beginning, it was very based on spirituality, not so much ufology and mythology. It was really based on spirituality, or at least that's how I remember things.
Mhm.
It was a long time ago, right?
But
I'm
how was it to you to read these books when you were young? Was it the topic strange to
It
you? Did
was.
it make sense?
No, it made sense, but it was very strange because my father was just a normal person.
Hmm.
I didn't know he used to see spirits or have these conversations with
These
spirit
beings,
these
yeah.
beings. I kind of discovered what was going on, uh, uh, and then I started understanding little by little, and now I know how the process was more or less. He told me,
Hmm.
and I think he already told a lot of people and gave interviews. But in the beginning, his intention was to preserve himself, so that's why he used a nickname,
Yes.
a pseudonym, right?
Hmm.
Not his real name. He wanted to be behind the scenes. It wasn't possible. So he now it's a completely different scenario,
Yes,
right?
yes. But back then he was a manager at the bank, so it would be very strange
Yeah,
for him. What
yeah,
kind of books that you're reading,
yeah.
you're doing?
And he didn't want to expose
Yes,
himself too
of the
much,
family either.
and the
Yes.
family either,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, but when I understood what was going on, I said to myself, I need to help any way I can, you know.
Yes.
And that's what I try to do until today, basically. When I wrote my first book in Portuguese called Earth Fantasy Island, uh, it was based on his work, right? And then I wrote and I published this one in 2006, I think, something like that. And then not too long ago, I published one in English called Official Contact,
Hmm.
which is just an updated version of this first one, but in English.
Okay.
And I translated three of his books to English. By the way, these books, these three books and mine, they are all available on Amazon.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested,
They can
just
find it there.
search, yeah,
Hmm.
Jan Val Ellam English or Official Contact, which is the name. I will probably just leave the
Yeah, the
links
links
in
under
the
the video.
yeah. But anyway, and then I started writing a script based on his books with him. Not in a hurry. We are more or less going at more or less 200 pages now. We are going to
Is
make
it
it
on a specific book or is it just more or less the overall subject that he talks about?
is a combination of several different books.
Okay.
It's called Memories of the Garden of Eden, something like Memories of the Garden of Eden. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a very hard script to write because it combines all kinds of
Yes.
crazy stories that you can imagine, right? Mythologies, religion, information that he brought that are not
Hmm.
found in these things. Anyway, I also wrote a few books with
Hmm.
Leo Kummer, right?
Yes.
He is somebody that really goes deep into my father's work, and we have that in common, right? When in 2006 or seven, right after I published my first book, I started doing some lectures around Brazil, going along with my father. Whenever he was going somewhere, I would go there, and sometimes I would give a speech as well. And it was the same speech that I had practiced, and it was based on a timeline that I created to try to make things easier for those
Okay.
who were
Watching.
watching.
Hmm.
And Leo, when he started his own journey, he did the same, right? He was writing topics and trying to organize a timeline.
Hmm.
And then when eventually we met, he showed me this timeline. Right? The difference was that my timeline had 10, 15 topics, right? And
It's a lot.
his timeline had like hundreds.
Hmm.
I was amazed. I was, wow, that's such a good work, man. We have to publish this. And then we started going deep and deep and spent like 4 or 5 years developing this timeline. And then now the book's ready. We're gonna publish it in Portuguese, and eventually we're gonna translate it to English as well.
Hmm.
And the book has more than 600 events,
Hmm.
all organized with the information of where
You can find it
you can
in the
find,
books and everything.
yeah,
Yes.
where Elan talked about this,
Yes.
and in what book the information can be, uh,
Or a
di-
lecture.
yeah, or lecture, right?
Hmm.
So it will be it will be very interesting for those who are beginning to read, because they can be a little lost.
Yeah.
Elan has published already like 52 books, And every year he publishes three, four, five.
Yes.
So this number will only grow
Besides all the lectures,
besides all the
dozens
lectures.
and
Yeah.
dozens. Yes.
So it's crazy
But even if you've been studying the books for a while, which is my case, I also have a hard time putting everything in chronological order.
for sure.
So even if you've already been studying for a while, this book is going to be good because it kind of really puts things in order. And then you can, oh, okay, now I understand when this
Yeah.
happened and that happened.
How long have you been in contact with my
I
father's?
think I started going to his lectures probably around 2015.
So let's say seven
7, 8 years
years ago.
almost. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, right?
it is. It
Especially
is.
in the beginning, you
It
don't
is.
know where to
Exactly.
to
And
begin.
in the beginning, I went to a lot of his lectures, but I wasn't really reading the books. My wife was reading the books and
Uh,
going to the lectures, and she called me along.
okay.
So in the beginning, I would just go to see the lectures. And since the lectures, they jump from one thing to another, it is hard to kind
Yeah.
of say, well, I'm
Yeah.
kind of lost here.
Yeah.
But after some time, you start to understand a little bit better
Yeah.
how things work.
For sure, the best way is start with the books,
Yes,
not the
I
lectures.
agree. I agree.
Right?
Nowadays, I agree. Yes.
They are because if you see the lectures, you probably won't understand
Yes.
half of it,
Yes.
right? You will
Yes.
get some stuff. You probably, if you are connected to these issues, you'll
Hmm.
probably like the lecture, but you will leave with a lot of questions.
Yes, that's what I
Right?
was gonna say. If you read the books first,
Yeah.
the lectures you can they're you're more likely to understand the information better.
Yeah.
Since I didn't read the books, I left with a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
I
And then
bet.
afterwards I would be asking everybody, but how
Yeah.
about this and how about that? He talked about this. Who's this person? Who's that person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the books do help a lot.
Yeah. So, for instance, going a little deeper in this book. Oh, by the way, I forgot one. Leo and I already published one in Portuguese besides this one,
Okay.
but it's another project that maybe we won't translate to English because it will be finished maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now because it's several books. We
Hmm.
just published the first. It's a story based on reality, but we put it out there as a fiction,
Hmm.
right? Talking about the encounter between the two universes that were a product of this creation, right? The antimaterial one, the material one. So it's the encounter of these two universes, and I can talk a little bit more about that in another
Future
video.
episodes.
Yeah, but the coming back to this one, one that I mentioned, it's called Universal Eras, and the first era, for instance, lasted for 500 million years. Right, it was the era of solitude, where the creator that
Fell.
fell into his own work
Was alone.
was alone,
Yeah.
right? And it's a very important era because can you imagine one consciousness scattered in multiple
Realities and
r-
parts and yes.
particles, very
Yes.
small part. By the way, the same amount of electrons
Hmm.
that existed in
In the
in the
beginning,
beginning, science says is the same,
what we have
right?
today,
What we
yes.
have today. And these electrons, they like to gossip, right? They absorb some information. They have a memory, and during 500 million years, the memory that was implanted, let's put it like that, in those electrons was the one of the creator,
Yes.
who was lost, who did not understand what was going on, who
Hmm.
was trying to rebuild himself, trying to survive at any cost, trying to dominate the environment where he was living.
That's why
Uh,
we say it was chaos.
yeah,
It was really
so
strange.
yeah, and then the second era where he started to make other beings come alive using his own code because it was the only thing available,
Kind of like clones.
kind of like clones. These spirits that jumped or dove from outside from the spirituality into
Hmm.
this creation to occupy these bodies, they also became infected by
The same
the
sickness.
same sickness,
Hmm.
and the memory of
Oh,
these electrons
yes,
was pretty much the same.
yes.
And the problem is that up to today, 13.8 billion years ago, after the Big Bang, when we die, the memory that our electrons absorb from our lives
Mhm.
are more or less the same. We don't know
Yeah,
what is going on.
what our purpose is and
We
everything.
wanna survive at any cost. We
Yes.
wanna fight over things so we can dominate our territory, or
Little evolution.
yeah, it is almost no evolution,
Yeah.
right? So we need to
Well, that's
we
part of what he's trying to bring with his
yeah, we
book is
really need to
yes,
understand what is going on.
yes, and
It's
his
not a matter of religion or
yes.
believing, or it's a matter of actually analyzing all the information
Hmm.
and okay, this makes sense. Okay, these events will also help us going into this direction here,
Hmm.
so we can understand more. But even without uh, events, like say official contacts and things like that, we can just read the information and see that it makes sense.
Hmm.
It's not because it's my father,
I
it's
would
just
call it a kind of like an enlightenment, where we're trying to learn more about things so we can actually start to make things better.
yeah,
So we don't have another existence where very little evolution happened.
yeah.
Because a lot of this information was available in the past. And as your father says, a lot of this was lost or destroyed or just canceled because religions and other dogmas didn't want this information to move forward.
Yeah, but one thing is the information to be available, and a lot of the information was available. Another thing is to actually be able to comprehend
Yes,
this
correct.
information
Hmm.
in the way that today we can.
Yes.
You know? The Homo sapiens of 500, let's just say 5 centuries ago,
Hmm.
500 years ago, he wasn't able to understand it the
Yes,
same way we are
I
today,
agree.
right?
Hmm.
So today we can. Science has evolved, right? The world is connected through internet,
Yes.
right? We travel, we see things, we learn with other
And
cultures.
just in the last century, a lot of the topics that he talks about now are possible to be explained through quantum physics, through
Exactly.
cosmology, through the time travel, all these different subjects that are very recent.
These electrons things that I
Yes,
just mentioned,
exactly.
now we
500 years ago,
we
people didn't even know they existed.
yeah,
Yes.
now we can
Now
understand
we
it,
can
right?
understand it. Yes.
So it makes it even more crucial
Hmm.
for us to actually give some importance to these subjects. 30 years ago when he started, whoever spoke about aliens or extraterrestrial was considered cuckoo,
Yeah, crazy.
crazy.
Yes.
And now everybody's talking about it.
Yes.
Governments, Pentagon.
Well, not to become a reality. It's
No,
every day on television.
yeah.
Yeah.
So one day everybody will just see them,
Yes.
right? And it's not gonna take, according to Elan, it's not gonna take a long time.
Hmm.
One of
The
these
initial
days,
contact.
yeah,
Yes.
we'll probably all see the spaceships, and we'll just have to ask ourselves, am I prepared
Yes.
for this? Uh, is my church preparing me well for this moment? What is,
Or my faith,
or my faith or
whatever your
whatever?
faith is. Yes.
Is my
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 beliefs.
beliefs, my dogmas,
Yes.
some people, some scientists, they should look in the mirror. Am I ready for this?
Hmm.
Because they're not.
Yeah.
Most of them
Most of them are
are
not. Yeah.
not, right? So it'll be interesting to see what is going to happen. I'm not
Yes.
saying it's gonna be all good.
Yeah.
Far from this, we'll probably face
Some difficulties.
a lot of difficulty.
Yeah.
It won't get any easier.
But it's gonna
But
happen.
no matter
Yeah,
what,
it's gonna happen.
it's not.
Regardless if we want it or not, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
not up to me or you to
Yes.
decide. It's gonna happen.
Hmm.
And according to my father, not so much because we need,
Hmm.
it's because they
They
need,
need. Yes.
right? So let's just wait and see. What, it will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Well, very well. Thank you very much for being here. This conversation was very nice, and I'm sure we're going to do many of these in the future
Yeah,
where we
yep,
can interact more
of course.
and you can help bring more information about your father's work, your own work that you're developing.
Thank you for your support, for bringing my father here to talk to you about
You're
these
welcome.
things. It's been a dream to bring his work to English. It's not easy. I translated three books, but I just don't have time and ability and resources to make this happen by myself. So thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being here again, and I'll see you soon. Take care.